All right, everybody. Good to see you. I am going to call us to order at 4:05 p.m. And this is a special meeting of the Altadena Library District Board of Trustees today on October 8th. We've got just a couple of items of business today, and the idea is these are all things that, upon reflection, it makes sense to go ahead and deal with today so that they can move along rather than waiting to address them at our regular meeting at the end of October. So thank you so much for everybody making this work. I do have regrets from Trustee Cervantes. He's not able to make it. So we have everybody that we're expecting. Let's go ahead and start with our roll call. Trustee Andrews.
Here.
Trustee Capel.
Here.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Here.
All right. 3 items on the agenda today. Anybody want to move anything around or change it or deal with it in any kind of way? All right, then I will ask for a motion to approve and adopt the agenda as it appears in your board package.
So moved.
Okay.
I second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any further debate? Let's take a vote on this. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And I vote for me. All right. At this time, I have no public comments on any non-agenda items. No public comment on any items, actually. But as always, if somebody calls in or if that changes, we will be delighted to hear that. So first up, we come to some unfinished business. This is an item now that we've seen several times. And as you'll recall, at our September 27th meeting, we asked for staff to go ahead and bring this back to us with a PSA. And that is what you see now in the package in front of you. I'd like to ask Nikki if there's anything you'd like to add on this item. I think the staff report is pretty self-explanatory, but.
No, just like what you said, we took our standard PSA. We did remove some language that pertains more so to vendors that work on site, because all of this work will be done remotely. It was reviewed by both Conversite AI, which is the company that's going to help us produce the MyLibro app, as well, and their attorneys, as well as our attorneys once we went back and forth on the agreement. So happy to answer any questions you have, but I do think it more clearly spells out what the terms of our contract will look like with them, and we should feel good about getting the work moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions for Nikki on this item? I totally agree. I think it's clear, it makes sense, it's well spelled out, everything looks good.
Yeah, I'm just glad that we took a little extra time on this one. Make sure we're all good with it, but I think the end result is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, agreed.
And I had a question, which is probably silly, but I'll go with it anyway. On page 4 of the recommendation, it said that the technical services director recommends that we approve up to $25,000 for the app's implementation, and then an additional $15,000 for the following 2 years of service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually per year, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to make sure of. And then and for me, I'm just trying to make a contract that, works for someone who we've never met before and are reading it. And if you look at Exhibit C, which is the pricing page, yeah, it reads in a similar way. So I guess the addition of one word on that would be helpful for me. Exhibit C, if you look at the second group of pricing, it says year 2 and year 3 total $15,000.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Terry.
Oh yeah, per year. Yeah.
Yeah, it should just be annually, I think, to make sure that, like I say, if someone gets into this who's never met us and understands what's going on, at least it'll be spelled out.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a really good point.
Yep. But yes, it is $15,000 per year for
Okay,
up to the 3 years, because the PSA spells out that it's for a 3-year term. Obviously, if it's doing well and we love it, we'll just contract with them at that point, which they had mentioned that typically the rates only go up to like 3%, 3 to 4%. So that's what we would negotiate with them in, 3 years from now. So. But yeah, Terry, I'll make those adjustments. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a really good point, Terry. Good catch.
Thanks.
Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay, then I would ask for a motion to, let's see, let me think for a second. What are we doing a motion to? Should we approve? I'd ask for a motion to authorize the district director to contract with ConvertSite AI for services as spelled out in the attached PSA with the clarification that that Terry has noted.
I will move to vote on that resolution, yes.
To do all that stuff I just said. Okay.
All that stuff.
All right, perfect. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made and properly seconded. Any other debate or discussion on this item? All right, let's go ahead and vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an aye vote from me. Terrific. All right. Well, I'm excited to see this project get started, and thank you so much to everybody for making sure we all kind of ended up in the right place and taking the time to do a little bit of extra explaining and due diligence. Really appreciate that. Okay, let's move on now to some new business. So we have two new business items. The first one comes to us basically from the Facilities Committee, and I can hand it to either Nikki or to Jason, or I can talk about it. Anybody have a preference on this item? Jason, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, so folks will remember that we had approved funds for the initial study, further discussion with the ad hoc committee after our first, I wasn't there, unfortunately, but after the first meeting with Holmes, who's doing the work, one of the things that was identified was to potentially do an additional higher level study. Folks may remember we've had some discussion in the past, and I believe Jonathan has brought up the idea of, we may want to explore at some point the library serving as some kind of emergency shelter, other form to assist the community. I think a lot of that came up after the fires last year when a lot of Altadena was under evacuation warnings. So that's really where this is coming from. And again, it's just part of doing our due diligence to make sure we do all of these studies, have all of this information and know what we're looking at before we start, our work with an architect. And this will also ensure that we can be more confident in the final budget and the final costing, and preventing any surprises, for lack of a better phrase. Any other details, Katie or Nikki?
I think that pretty well explains it. So basically the idea here is the library currently exists as what's called a risk category 2 structure. And this is confusing because there's like a lot of numbers. So this is a tier 3 seismic study, but that has nothing to do with the risk categories. The risk categories are totally separate. So we are a risk category 2 structure. And basically that means, like, if there's a major earthquake or something like that, how long would one expect before the building is functional, right? So risk category 4, which is like what a lot of hospitals and police stations and schools have to be, means that, like, with no delay, it's still operational. You could have people there, it could function as a shelter. So what we've asked Holmes to do, if the board approves this, is to take a look at what it would take to meet the qualifications as a risk category 4 building. Like, what would that involve? With the understanding that that would probably not be super realistic for the library. However, there may be some portions of the risk category 4 like list of things that we might think are worth doing. It might be like, oh, okay, if we, pick items 1, 3, and 7 from this list of 14 things, we have a pretty reasonable expectation that the library could be open within, 48 hours of a major earthquake or something like that. But basically what we're asking the board to approve is the additional investigation about what would be required to meet the risk category for standards, and also what Holmes recommends as like probably reasonable, or what seems like it would make the most sense in terms of our actual seismic retrofitting. So I hope that makes sense. So that's what this is. So this was like an option that was originally in the terms of service, and they said, if you want to do this, it would cost a little bit extra money. And they looked at it a little bit and they said, we think you should probably do this. So we're bringing it to the board because we think we should probably do this.
So I had a question
Yeah.
about it all. That's a great explanation. Thanks for that. And I think it's a good thing to do, but it doesn't, bind us to some kind of decision about if we want to be a shelter for Altadena, because, I think there'd be things like provisioning and other, things that we'd have to meet in order to do that. So that all gets talked about at another point in time. Like, this is just the thing that allows us to get a discussion going if we so choose.
That's such an important point, Terry. That's exactly right. So this just basically gives us all the information so that we can then sit down and make some decisions together. That's exactly right. So it doesn't commit us to anything. It just sort of keeps us from the situation where 3 months from now, as we're determining what our final, amount of bond issuance is, where somebody's like, well, what if we wanted to do this? And it's like, well, I have no idea how much that would cost. So this is just making sure we have all that information, and we could do absolutely nothing. We could stay as a risk category 2 building. We could do some of it. We could do all of it. We could make whatever decision seems most appropriate. This just gives us all the information to make that decision.
Okay, thanks.
Nikki, anything you'd like to add on this?
No, I think you guys covered it very thoroughly.
So the amount we're looking at is an amount not to exceed 16,000. So we would basically be voting to authorize the district director to expand the agreement with Holmes to include that risk category 4 evaluation with an amount not to exceed 16,000. I think it's important to note that we're still well within our sort of reports and studies budget. We're in good shape there. We haven't even gotten close to hitting our budget limit on that, and this would not put us over or impact any of that in any way. So we're still in good shape. So yeah, I would ask for a motion to do that, to authorize the district director to expand our seismic study to include that risk category 4 evaluation in an amount not to exceed $16,000.
So moved.
Okay.
Then I'll second.
All right, perfect. Motion's made and properly seconded. Any further discussion or debate on this? Any other questions, comments? All right, let's go ahead and vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an aye vote from me. All right, perfect. Thank you very much, guys. All right, that brings us to our last item of new business. That is item 4B. And I am going to ask Nikki to explain a little bit what we need to do on this one, if you would, please.
All right, so I believe we switched from Chase Banks to Pacific Western right when I was coming on board. That would be my guess, just about 2 years ago now. And at the time, we had the interim director, Cindy Cleary, Nicole Fabry, the former administrative services manager, as well as Terry and former trustee Betsy as signers, with the preference being that we have 2 signers on all checks that go out. So I came on board, they added me as a signer. I don't know why we didn't add Nicole at Pacific Western. I believe she was with Chase. So pretty much for the last 2 years, I've been the sole signer on checks. And we realized with bringing Tony Rainey on board, our new administrative services manager, that we really should have the double signature. So I reached out to Pacific Western and they sent me the paperwork as well as like the resolution that needs to pass for us to add additional signers. So now it will be myself, Tony, our new administrative services manager. Terry was already on as a signer, so we've decided to leave him as a trustee, just as a backup signer as well, and then add Katie as the board president. So as you can see, it's just like a formalizing of this. And when we have the signer sign off, and then moving forward, if we ever need to make changes, we'll just bring it back to the board. Happy to answer any questions you have, but the plan being that we'll always have 2 signers moving forward.
Makes sense to me.
Me too.
Same.
And I'm also glad that we've got some backup just in case somebody's out of town or unavailable or whatever it is. I think that's very smart. Okay, so we have to do this by resolution. So what we are going to do is vote to approve resolution 2021-06, establishing authorized signatures. So if there's no further discussion on this, not to preclude discussion, we can talk about it more, but if there's any, unless there's anything else, then I would ask for a motion that we do that we approve resolution 2021-06.
So moved.
All right. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion's made and properly seconded. Any further discussion or debate on this item? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an aye vote for me. All right. That was extremely efficient, guys. That brings us to the end of our business for today. Thank you guys so much for making this happen early in the month. It's going to really streamline operations and allow us to be in much better shape as we come into the end of October. So much appreciated. Before we adjourn, anything else for the good of the order?
No, I would just add for the record that, Katie, you've just run the shortest meeting we've ever had at the Altadena Library District.
No.
And that was even with a late start. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's a real achievement. I feel very good about it. All right, then I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So
I
moved.
move. Oh,
All right, almost made it, Terry, but not quite. You want to second it?
I'll second it.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any objection? All right, hearing none, we are adjourned at 4:23 p.m. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Have a great weekend.
Everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.